ever make a decision on a whim that absolutely transforms your life? Well, I'm going to propose a whim for you. Worship, home, education or employment, and media. Will you decide that worship will be the foundation for your home life, your education or employment, your career, and for media, and see it working through all of these things? But first, let's start with a little story. Sometimes we like to pass things off as if they're our own to decide whatsoever we want to do with them. And that takes me back to a story of my younger brother who sometimes we were wont for toys. And he found something different than the rocks and sticks in the backyard, and came home one day with an egg. Not just any egg. This was a little egg, and it was kind of like rubbery-ish. And so he enjoyed playing with his egg for some time. I don't know, maybe a couple days. Then he went back to go dig out of the toy closet his egg, wherever he stashed it. And he found that it wasn't there anymore. Well, parts of it were there, but it had hatched, and Mom was already playing with the snake somewhere else. So he had passed this egg off as decided this is just going to be my toy. Well, that's all well and good until it hatches and you find out it's actually a snake. So we try to claim something, but reality rebels and pulls the rug out from under us. In Jeremiah 17, we see two things. God is speaking through the prophet Jeremiah. God has sent many prophets to them over a long period of time. The northern kingdom's been carried into exile by the Assyrians, and now the Babylonians will shortly be coming to take away the people of Judah and take them into captivity, to conquer Jerusalem. And Jeremiah is here again, God speaking through Jeremiah, rebuking the people for their deceitful heart that is leading them to worship however they please and live however they please, as worship is foundational to how we live our lives. So the people were passing it off as something that they could just decide to do with whatever they want. They were worshiping however they wanted, wherever they wanted, whoever they wanted, and then they were living however they wanted. So let's look at the heart first. In chapter 17, we see the heart referenced several times. In verse 1, the sin of Judah is written down with an iron stylus. With a diamond point, it is engraved upon the tablet of their heart, and on the horns of their altars. As they remember their children, so they remember their altars and their Asherim by green trees on the high hills. Maybe this is thinking, as you might remember children as precious to you, or maybe the number of children, but their hearts are given to their altars, their many altars. O mountain of mine in the countryside, I will give over your wealth and your treasures for booty, for your high places for sin throughout your borders, and you will even of yourself let go of your inheritance that I gave you. And I will make you serve your enemies in land which you do not know, for you have kindled a fire in my anger which will burn forever. So the sin of Judah was engraved on their heart. What does their heart look like? Engraved on it is all of their many sins. And you might juxtapose that against God taking his people and saying, I will make it so that my law is written on their hearts. Or David, the psalm where he's saying, thy word have I hidden in my heart that I might not sin against you. Okay, let's keep looking at the heart. In verse 5, thus says the Lord, cursed is the man who trusts in mankind and makes flesh his strength, whose heart turns away from the Lord. The heart turned away from the Lord It trusts in man and made flesh its strength. That's if you're looking at their heart and their heart has a personality, it's not listening to the Lord, turning away from him, trusting in men and making flesh its strength. But our battle's not against flesh and blood. Trust in the Lord like a tree by rivers of water, it says later down here. It makes me think of Psalm 1. He shall be like a tree planted by rivers of water. It says, for he will be like a tree, in verse 8, planted by water that extends its roots by the stream. And you think of it just slowly, bit by bit, branching out, reaching, knowing where its sustenance comes from. But the heart of his people had forgotten where their sustenance came from. And it says that for he will be like a bush in the desert and will not see when prosperity comes. He won't enjoy that. He won't see that. But will live in stony wastes in the wilderness, a land of salt without inhabitant. But blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord. Verse 9, we see it as deceitful, desperately sick, and who can understand it? The state of their heart. The heart is more deceitful than all else and is desperately sick. Who can understand it? The great physician, the one who can heal, says in verse 10, I, the Lord, search the heart. Who can understand it? Who can heal it? I, the Lord, search the heart. I test the mind, even to give each man according to his ways, according to the results of his deeds. And then he goes on to an illustration where we see the partridge, this hen sitting on eggs that it didn't lay, but pretending as if that he did, taking them to his own. And eventually they will hatch and abandon the hen, forsaking the hen. And then we see the throne, the glorious throne on high of the Lord, and how those who forsake him will be put to shame, because they have forsaken the fountain of living water, where their roots should be reaching out towards. So let's just read that. Verse 11, as a partridge that hatches eggs, which it has not laid, so is he who makes a fortune but unjustly. So they've worshipped however they wanted, and they've lived however they wanted, making unjust gain, taking advantage of people, and being unjust. So is he who makes a fortune, but unjustly. In the midst of his days, it will forsake him. And in the end, he will be a fool. Just like the partridge sat on these eggs, and they hatched and left him. Verse 12. A glorious throne on high from the beginning is the place of our sanctuary. So maybe parallel to the instead of the safety under this partridge, no, but we are find our refuge and sanctuary by the glorious throne on high from the beginning is the place of our sanctuary. O Lord, the hope of Israel. All who forsake you will be put to shame. Those who turn away on earth will be written down, because they have forsaken the fountain of living water, even the Lord. You know, there's another place where this is written about, and I will come to that when we continue in the next video.